Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm really excited. This has been something we've been working on for quite a while, and I'm just happy to dive into it. By way of introduction, I'm Brian Borgery with Invest Puerto Rico. For those who don't know, Invest Puerto Rico is the official business and investment attraction agency for the island of Puerto Rico. We help companies, investors, new innovations, help create jobs on the island. So we're bringing attraction to the island for everything in business and innovation. On that, we focus on a number of different things. One of those, and one of the areas that I have the privilege of leading, is the entrepreneurial ecosystem, building out innovations on the island and supporting investment to occur on the island as well. And that's something that's been growing like crazy over the last few years. Puerto Rico doesn't historically have a history of being epicenter of startups and investment like maybe Silicon Valley or New York. But over the last 5 to 10 years, we've really been stepping it up, and it's grown into, in my opinion, the best entrepreneurial ecosystem in the world, at least for those who are okay jumping into the 21st century frontier. So today, we're going to go through the Panoramica platform. So this is a platform that we've been working on in conjunction with our partners at Deal Room, as well as the Puerto Rico Science, Technology, and Research Trust and some of the organizations along with them. And in just a second, I will introduce Pierre, but I just want to give a little bit of context behind this. So data can be difficult to come by, but we also know that data is super important to make good decisions, to make sure that we're on the right track, and just to better understand the world around us. In emerging markets and jurisdictions, sometimes data isn't always readily available or easy to access, or just has never been thought to be used. In Puerto Rico, what we've done to make it easier for everyone is create a platform, work with partners to develop out an ecosystem database and map. And in this case, this is what we're going to show you. We've called it Panoramica. This platform is open to all. It's free for those who want to dive deeper into Puerto Rico, our ecosystem, what we have going on. And it's very collaborative. So we'll get more into the details on all of that. But I'm really excited because this is honestly a game changer for people on and off the island, or anyone who's interested in Puerto Rico and what we can do to grow and increase our ecosystem and economy here. So without further ado, I want to introduce Pierre with Deal Room. He's been integral in our efforts in building out and getting ready to launch this platform. As the technology providers, they've been crucial in helping us do this. And we're going to have him take us through and do some deep dives into the platform as we discuss some of the nuances and intricacies of the Puerto Rico market and ecosystem, and how we all can use this platform, whether we're an investor, a startup, a government employee, ecosystem player, or just someone who's interested in Puerto Rico. So without further ado, Pierre, thank you for joining us. And let's tell us a little bit about Deal Room and how you work with ecosystems like ours to maximize the potential that we have through data.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. So yeah, I'm Pierre. I've been at Deal Room for a few years now. I want to show you like a few slides to explain a little bit the context of what our company is actually doing and how we work with the other ecosystem like Puerto Rico. And then after this, I'll take you basically through the platform and really dive deeper into how it actually works and how all of you guys can actually start using it in open access. So I'm just gonna share my screen quickly, and here we go. Can you see this?
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Presentation.
All right. Great. So yeah, the Panoramica platform was launched a month ago, and so yeah, we're the data company behind this platform, and we work with Brian and his team in creating and this platform and updating the data on it. So in a few words, what our company is in essence, we are a startup ourselves. We're about 70 people. We are based in Amsterdam, Netherlands. And in essence, we are a data and we're a software company. So our goal is to basically build a global database of startups. So our ambition is to track every single startup that exists in the world, not just in Puerto Rico. So yeah, we've been around for about a decade now, and you can see here roughly like how we work. So since we're a data company, our job is to build basically processes that allows us to identify and track and clean and aggregate data in a scalable manner. So we track data on the startups, which are somehow the core focus of a specific ecosystem, such as Puerto Rico. But we know that these startups alone cannot really be successful in the long run. So it's also part of our mission to track information on other stakeholders that help these startups become successful in the long run. So we track information on the investors like VCs, PEs, angel investors, the corporates that also invest in these startups along their journey. We track information on the incubators and the accelerators that also help these startups, debut their journey. Track information on the founders themselves and their own experience in founding other companies, the universities, etc. So here we basically track a lot of data which is publicly available ourselves, thanks to the trackers and the methods that we basically build and trained over the years. But we also have a lot of data that is being actively shared by the communities with which we work. So for example, the investors are also actively sharing with us their list of portfolio investment in order for themselves to become more visible in their room, but also for their portfolio companies to be more visible in their room. And of course, the founders of the companies can always claim their own company profile and input their own data in it. So then here, yeah, we sort of play with the multiple sources of data that we try to sort of unify and aggregate so that we can produce like high quality insights that is basically digestible and understandable, and that help our users and our clients understand tech ecosystem and benchmark them next to others. So a little bit of a high level of the different organizations that work with us. So of course we have investors, so VCs that are clients of ours. So VCs like Sequoia or Index Venture or Atomico, etc. All these investors have basically teams of analysts. They use us as a tool to discover companies to invest in. For example, startup space in Puerto Rico. So we have large tech groups and corporates like Microsoft or AWS. We have groups like McKinsey, like BCG. We have universities that also use our data to understand how markets are evolving. And of course, we work with public organizations and governments on projects like the one that we're talking about today with Panoramica. So that's kind of like the setting of organizations that are using our data for their own work. So the setup is, on the one hand, we are offering the access to our global database. So here you can access all of our data, but in order to access this, you need to pay a license. On the other hand, what we are building with Brian and his team is on the Panoramica platform. You can see basically all the data that we track in the room, as long as the company has a location in Puerto Rico. So all the content on this one platform, panoramicapr.com, revolves entirely around Puerto Rico. And so the second big difference is that anyone can access this platform completely for free. But it's really important to understand that these two are constantly in sync. So if I'm a founder in Puerto Rico, I claim and I adjust my data on the Panoramica platform, then the data on my company will be visible on the global DRM platform towards all of our clients globally. So here, yeah, for founders in Puerto Rico, it's kind of a way to get double exposure, if I may say.
Yeah, and that's just one of the important things too, is being plugged into the global world, the digital world. Obviously, we don't only want to find investment from just the island of Puerto Rico. We want investors from everywhere. So I found to be the best back-end technical solution to help us as an island really show not just ourselves here in Puerto Rico, but the entire world, what we have to offer and the amazing things that are happening on the island. So I think this is really crucial, and I'm excited that all this is pretty synced up in real time, whether you're looking globally or just in Puerto Rico.
Exactly. Yeah, as I mentioned, I think a second ago, so the Panoramica platform is one of the 80 plus that we are running globally. So we have a similar platform for France, for example, that we run with La French Tech. We have a similar one in upstate New York, in Atlanta, in Texas, in Jalisco, Mexico, and a ton of others. So my point here is that each of those platforms are really showcasing a local tech ecosystem like yours, but they're not isolated from one another. They are in sync with one another at all times, which really makes the strength of this network.
And that's important too when you run into like global accelerators like Parallel 18, one of our partners as well, has global acceleration where they bring companies from all over the world. So you can start to see how these different jurisdictions and how these founders or companies are actually bouncing around or setting up operations, or how companies truly are becoming more and more global, and not only hyper local.
Yeah. All right. I think we can just like dive into the demo, and I can show you a little bit how it looks like. Towards the end of the webinar, I would like to say a few words on how founders more specifically can use this platform for their own benefits. So I'll leave this for the end.
Yeah, so kind of just in order of things as you're pulling that up. So we do actually have a broad group looking at who signed up. We do have a lot of investors both on and off the island with us today. We also have local companies and startups, as well as other ecosystem players like accelerators, government officials. So we do actually have a pretty mixed group, which is great. We're all part of an ecosystem. So we're going to go through and he'll help us understand a little bit better, both from an investor standpoint, maybe more of a researcher or just an ecosystem player, support organization standpoint, and of course, as he mentioned, wrap up also with the founder view and aspect as well, because this is a very dynamic platform that really caters to half a dozen or more different groups who are all interested in the ecosystem here on the island.
Exactly. Yeah, so if you just enter panoramicapr.com, then you can already access the platform. Eventually, it will ask you to create an account. This is completely for free. Just give your name and your email, and then you'll be able to access even more personalization features on the platform to make it even easier for you to browse. So everything should be rather self-explanatory. But let me show you some of the areas that I think are particularly interesting to look at. So if you look at your dashboard over here, you can see high-level numbers on the ecosystem, and you have your number of companies which are funded, which received funding in the past. You have your VC investors, your funding rounds over the years. You can look at actual number of rounds or totals. So in here, you can basically create searches on the platform, and you can save these searches under your own personal accounts. So you're going to basically see these personalized searches over here. You can create list of companies that you want to track, and then you can basically also access your list over here that you can then also share with your colleagues, for example. So this is kind of like a high level access to the data that you want to find out. So if you want to dive into, for example, the companies list, then you're going to have your companies, you're going to have your startups and scale ups, you're going to have your companies that actually received funding, companies that didn't yet receive any funding, you have your corporates. And in essence, what you see here is a gigantic Excel sheet-like kind of page. So same as on Excel, I'm sure everyone is quite familiar. You can just hit the top of the columns to sort these columns by launch date, by valuation, by funding. You can You can add filters over here. So right now I'm just seeing any company that has any type of location in Puerto Rico. So if I want to be more specific and only look at companies that have the headquarter in Puerto Rico, I can just add my filter this way and my number drops down. So if I want to add, for example, other filters, I want to look at companies in the B2B sector, I can just click here, or I can just type it in, business as a client focus, and then my number adjusts again over here. If you don't exactly know where to start, when you want to filter these companies, when you want to look for, like scout for very specific companies, yeah, so you can type things in here like, okay, fintech as an industry, for example, and apply this in. But if you don't exactly know where to start, my recommendation would be to go into the advanced filters, and you can see the full breakdown of every single filter you can use on the platform. So you have your client focus, B2B, B2C, your business model, your income stream, your startup industries and corresponding sub-industries. You can filter by technology, by location, of course, we saw this, by age, by size. You can look at, for example, companies that raised around in 2023 so far by applying this filter, raised in 2023. And then you'll basically see every company that raised this year. So there's quite a lot that you can filter over here. Another way to also get acquainted with how the platform works is if you open, for example, the tab Startup and Scale Up, you're going to see here at the top a number of bubbles that are essentially saved searches, which we put here for you to use, just for you to get some inspiration on the type of searches that you can do on the platform. So, for example, you can search companies based on the tech stack that they use. So if I click here, I want to look at startups based in Puerto Rico, which are using PHP in their tech stack. So that's one of the many filters that you can use on the platform. Once you're here, you can visualize your company as a table view, as a card view, as a dynamic landscape view. So you can break these down per industry, per sub-industry. You can break these down by employee range, for example. And all of this is dynamic. So for example, if this company hires 10 more people next month, then it will jump automatically into the 11 to 50 employee bucket.
I think another cool thing, sorry, just jumping in, and I think it shows on there too, like the ecosystem value and things like that. I know it's always for a lot of people on the island and off the island, things are kind of unknown. Like, all right, what's happening here? Is there actually activity going on? Are the companies worth anything? Have any of them been successful? I know that's a lot of questions that sometimes people will have. And I think it's really interesting when you jump in, even like this one, you can kind of see, okay, well, there's some unicorns or companies that went public, like Evertech or others as well. I think that's a really interesting one sometimes to start out with, especially when you're just trying to size the market. Like, okay, well, what's actually here and going on, and how do we quantify it?
Yeah, exactly. Like to look at, you can basically use the platform to scout for very specific companies, either because you want to invest in them, or because you want to partner with them, or because you want to find a job at an interesting company. So you're sort of in a scouting mode, and then you can use all those filters to do exactly that. And you can be really quite specific. But you can also use the platform to look at the data in an aggregated way to understand basically how the trends in Puerto Rico are evolving over time. So for example, here, what I'm looking at companies HQ'd in Puerto Rico classified as B2B companies. And out of those 375, what you can do is you can open your stats over here. And basically what it shows you the combined valuation of those 375 company broken down per year and per cohort, basically per year founded. So if I exclude those, then you can basically adjust this chart to look at how the B2B sector is evolving in Puerto Rico. And again, you can add fintech over here, and then your chart is going to adjust automatically as well. So that could be quite a nifty tool to use if you want to sort of understand how the market is evolving. And the same applies if you want to look at, for example, the funding rounds which are raised by companies on the island. So you can look at your funding rounds over here, and as default, what we see are funding rounds which were raised by companies which are HQ'd in Puerto Rico or which were originally founded in Puerto Rico. So then again, you have some examples of queries here at the top if you want to look at, for example, your seed round, the seed rounds which are raised on the island and how this evolves over time. What you can also do is you can look at these funding rounds, and you can basically look at where the money in these rounds was actually coming from. So where is the location of all of the investors who invested in Puerto Rican startups over time? So if you break this down by investor location and show this as a 100% scale, it basically shows you the source of investment in the country, which can be quite also useful to track. And again, like here, you can use the same filter as I showed you before, filtering by industry, sub-industry, technology, looking at, startups founded by women, for example, or startups founded by serial founders, rounds which were raised by VC investors more specifically, versus corporate or angel investors, for example. So like the tool is just really quite versatile in the end. So you can use it in multiple directions for multiple purposes, depending on what your use case is.
Awesome. So like from an investor standpoint, as well as maybe a researcher, economic development standpoint, all these things are super good. But even from like a founder standpoint, seeing, okay, more money's coming from Miami or who knows where, Austria or who know whatever it is, to Puerto Rico, that can also help you in your search and understanding of things. And then also just doing your market research of competitors, what else is on the island. Maybe you have a new idea, you want to create something, but you look here and, oh, there's 40 other companies trying to do the exact same thing. Maybe I shouldn't try to start that company. I should do something else. I think the possibilities are limitless, quite frankly. And although we're trying to dive deep, we're also just scratching the surface of how this platform can be used. But as we continue going through this, I think we should all have a really good understanding of how we can get started and what's useful for us.
Yeah, and so if you want to also like search specific companies, you can just here like type at the top. So for example, if you look at the raincoat profile, just for you to get a sense of what kind of data we're tracking on these companies. So yeah, you have your tagline, you have your descriptive tags over here. So business focus and revenue stream and industry, etc. Number of people, founding year. We have in this case, we have valuation estimates. Could be because the official valuation of the company was never made public. So in this case, we made an estimate based on the amount of the latest round raised by the company. So we also have some estimates in terms of financials if the official financial are not public for that specific company. The funding rounds that the company raised over time. So when I say funding round, it can really be, it could be a seed round, it could be an angel round, it could be a VC round, Series A, and all the way to IPO. But it could be also, for example, a startup that joined a local startup accelerator, and this would also be labeled over here basically as a support program that is also part of the journey of the development of that specific company. So you can find data on employees and web visits and the tech stack that the company is using. So here you have also related curated landscape about this company. So I see, for example, that this company is part of Spiral 18 Generation 8. So if I click on this one, we can see this curated landscape that we built with our friends from Spiral 18 who shared with us the list of every single company that joined the 9 generation startup?
We have an update coming. There's more than 9 now, so we got another
You have an
update
update.
coming this month.
Okay, we'll update this then. But the point is that all of those elements, either raw data or actual pieces of research like this landscape that we show here, are sort of all connected with one another in the same platform, which makes it just quite easy to browse. So yeah, you'll find information on the job opening if we actually are able to retrieve job opening from the website of the company. Can also be useful. You can find similar companies, and in this case, when you look at similar companies, you're basically gathering data on companies that are also outside of the island. So you're basically tapping into the global database with this little tab over here. So in this case, we're trying to find, like climate fintech or related companies in the global DRM database and show them to you this way as well, which can be also quite useful.
And if they have patents or anything like that, that can also show. So definitely check out the tabs and just take time looking around. There's a lot on here, so as you play around, just each new page or screen, see what's there. There's already a lot of pre-built prompts, as he's been showing us, to get you started on different things, and that will just help you understand how you can dive deeper. For example, with patents, if you want to find those that have patents, because that's part of your investment thesis as a fund or something like that, those are all options for ways that you can filter.
Brian, should we maybe dive into the founders section?
Sure.
Is there anything else you would like to cover right now?
Actually, let's run through a couple more things and we'll dive into the founder specifics. So one of the really important things that I've been working on with a lot of different people here on the island is showing our holistic ecosystem that we have. So when a lot of people think about Puerto Rico, they're probably thinking maybe of like a hurricane that happened 6 years ago, or they're thinking about, ooh, it's a beautiful beach. That's also beach island. That's also very true. We're a paradise, enchanted. But at the same time, we have a very robust ecosystem, especially support wise for startups and founders. We have lots of accelerators and incubators, which you can find on the platform. So you can start looking through those, especially if you're a startup. Or if you're an investor and you want to get plugged into the market and you don't know people or where to find them, you can find all these different accelerators, incubators, support programs on the platform. And just in the same format, we looked at everything else, where they're located. Are they on the west side of the island? Are they on the north side? Do they focus on something specific? Are they energy? Are they general? Are they SaaS? So you can do all of that. And same thing, we also have we have a lot more than most people would expect, especially when it comes to support organizations. In my opinion, and what I've looked at, even at some of the other ecosystems, I think we have more like per capita than anywhere else I've seen, over double like Las Vegas and other places. So we actually have a lot of resources. And one of the goals here is to help everyone on the island and off, like, know that like this is here. Puerto Rico is actually a phenomenal place to get started with the business. And when you add on the startup founder tax incentives and other things like that, in my opinion, there's probably no better place to do it, especially if you want to be within the United States boundaries. For universities, I don't know how many people we have from universities here, but a quick shout out or note on that. We can also, under the universities tab, jump into and maybe, do you want to share your screen again, or if you're not yet, share that, and let's just kind of show a couple of these things as I ramble on a little bit. So we were talking about accelerators. We have that section. There's still more being added. There's actually a lot more than we have in here that we're just getting the right data for and making sure that that's all packaged appropriately and things like that. From the university standpoint, this is super important. There isn't a lot of good data on university alumni, founders, things like that. And this platform actually can do that. So we hope to partner with a lot of of the universities. And if any of you are listening, let's set up a call to really start tracking where are these founders going, what are they doing, how many founders are coming out of each school. We can then drill down further, maybe down to even each campus and things like that. So there's a lot of just holistic insights that are really good for our ecosystem at large that I'm excited about. And we'll be working together again with groups from the Trust, HR Parlante, and others to really make this the most robust data source you can find for anything innovative, startup, technology in Puerto Rico. If you have questions as well, feel free to put them in the chat. If they work into the flow of what we're talking about, we'll work them in. Otherwise, we'll leave a few minutes at the end to answer relevant questions as well. So as we're talking about these things, feel free to drop in a few little questions. So to continue on from the founder standpoint, and what we can jump back to it in a second. Walk us through a little bit on the founder front. Let's make sure we hit on the funding or fund matchmaking tool for investments, and kind of take us through the best way that a founder and anyone too can log in, claim their profile, and get going on the platform.
Yeah. All right. So for founders, well, first, we have something that we created at Deerroom, because with all these ecosystems that we're running globally, we wanted to find a way not just to help the investors and public organizations and universities and so on, but we also wanted, to help the founders themselves. So we created a founder package, which is in essence a 3-month access for free to our global database for any startup founder who raised less than $10 million in funding. So anyone can just claim this. There's actually a page on the platform. If you go to home and if you go for founders, at the bottom you can find your link to request this founder license. So you'll just have to put your name and the name of your company, and we'll give you access to our global database for 3 months. So the global database, you can use it as a founder to do research on your own market with the same tools that I just showed you a second ago, but with global data, not just Puerto Rico data. You can research clients, you can research investors, you can research competitors. Basically, you can use our global database the same way as all of our VC clients are using it, but for your own purposes, basically. So do use and abuse this. This is for free. A second thing that you can do, of course, you can claim your own company profile. So we were looking at Raincoat before. So you look at your company, let's say I'm the founder of Raincoats. I can just, here you have the pencil button. When you click on this, first you will be requested to actually create an account in the system to validate that your email address matches the domain name of that specific company. When the match is done, you will basically have claimed the company profile, and it will show up over here under your company, so the companies that you manage is. If you manage the profile of Raincoats, then you can basically open this and you can change all the data that you want. So the tagline and the descriptive tags of your company and your links and your address and your financials and your funding rounds. So this can be quite useful. For example, if you want to specify, sometimes there might be an earlier angel rounds, which was never really made public, that you actually want to showcase on your profile for investors to know about when they look you up. So then you can add it this way as well and complement the data that we already tracked on your company.
And I'd say that's another important thing too. So AI and other technology that's used to gather data is good, but it's not perfect. So sometimes maybe if something's pulled from a press release, there could be a tiny little discrepancy. So that's another important reason to claim your profile and just double check, make sure everything's accurate, up to date. It does actually a phenomenal job, but it's always good to review and then claim that profile so you have control over the data from your company, what's being shown, as Pierre was just saying. And I don't know if you're about to jump into notes or not, but that's another good feature.
Yeah, actually, before showing the notes, I just wanted to remind again to everyone that so if I actually update this profile, I'm not just updating it on Panoramica. I can go on the global DRM platform, which is app.drm.co, and here I'm going to find exactly the same profile. So if I search for raincoats, then I'm going to find the same company profile. So basically, our clients globally will find you this way, and then visitors on the Panoramica platform will also find you this way, which is kind of a double reason for you to take a quick look at your company profile and make sure that everything is right. Now, if you're actively fundraising, you can also signal this on your own company profile so that investor will note you a bit more easily. So you can once you claim your company profile, you're going to have this blue section over here. So if you click on that, you can add a pitch basically for your company. So you can say that this pitch is actually because I am fundraising. So here you can just say we're raising 5 million, for example. And then you can just like add your text over here. You can add your image, YouTube video for like, for example, a product demo. You can add a PDF, for example, for your pitch deck. And then you can save your pitch and add it to your profile. So now basically anyone who will open up the Raincoat profile will see that you're actually actively fundraising, and hopefully will get in touch with you if they want to invest in you. So that's also another way that you can really be in control of what's being said about your company and how people also find you. Another thing that can be useful. So you can use the matching tool over here to, for example, say, yeah, again, my company is Raincoat, and I am actively raising money. So I'm looking for 50 million as a Series B from an investment fund, let's say. So again, in this section of the app, we are basically retrieving investor profile from the global database that basically match your query. And we're basically going to find investors that have invested in similar companies as yours, because now we know how many employees you have and we know which industry you operate in. So all of this is then being matched in the background.
And
So
that brings up two really important points as well. One, the importance for investors to fill out their profile as well. So all you investors listening, make sure your fund or whatever group you're working through, that your profile also is accurate and up to date, so that can match better. And then as you're looking for companies to invest into, or just to have them come to you, but have them be more prepared, so it's not just getting a random email and you're not even a good fit. They're actually able to do their due diligence as a startup to understand you as an investment group. The other thing I really like about this is it will show, and I think it might show there too, if they've invested on the island before or not. And that's really important for us, since many times people don't fully understand Puerto Rico. We're part of the States, but are we different? Is it scary to invest here? Answer is no to that. We're under the same laws as all the other states for investment reasons and things like that. But this helps us as Puerto Rican companies and founders to know, okay, they're familiar. They've already invested on the island. Oh, they've invested in Bold or whatever company. I'm going to go talk to those founders, see what their experience was with this investor before even reaching out. So it really is an amazing tool to help both on the investment, but especially from the founder front in identifying those ideal investors. One other thing I want to bring up, and we can jump to it now or later, depending, from a founder standpoint and just in general, there is another section or tab for service providers. So for those who are servicing, obviously, the ecosystem, make sure you're listed on there and that you have your company, and vice versa. Many startups and founders are also service providers to others. I mean, those are great companies to create. We create companies to solve problems for people, and many of those are services. So same structure as everything else. It's also great for service providers to also be listing on the platform, and for those founders to be looking through the service providers if there's something that they need specifically for them.
Yeah. service provider is a good touch, is a nice touch. I wanted to add actually one more thing related to the matching tool. So the matching tool is great, I think, as a first step if you're actively looking for investors, for you to get a sense of what's out there, which VC could be a good fit for you, for then for you to investigate further. If you want to be more detailed, I would really recommend to take these 3 months for free and do your own scouting on the global database, because there you can be even more specific than what you can actually do on the matching tool. So if you go, then once you have your 3 months for free access, then yeah, you can go there, and then I can show you a little bit how it looks like, but it's basically the same as I showed you before on the Panoramica platform. So right now I'm just looking at any investor globally, VCs, PEs, sovereign funds, CVCs, whichever. So in this case, you probably have a good idea of what type of investor you want to find. So it could be, for example, venture capital that is based, let's say, in Europe, for example, for a change. And in this case, I want to find a VC investor from Europe that have invested in the past in fintech companies. So here I'm basically matching the experience of this specific fund. And in this case, I want to look at a seed investor more specifically. So now my number is going to drop down again. And then now in this case, I want to find, out of those 1,100, I want to find investors that have invested in the past in anywhere in Latin America, for example, just to show me a bit the experience of that specific investor. So now my number is going to drop down to 212. And this is basically how you can sort of stack these filters together to really dive deeper into a very specific list of investors that are going to be relevant for what it is that you're looking for, and for your own company, what is really relevant for you.
Awesome. So that's a high level. There's been some questions coming in. I think I remember some of them off the top of the head. Just some comparisons, and jump in anywhere that I'm lacking, Pierre. Some people ask how it compares to Crunchbase. In my unsophisticated, oh, can't hear you, Pierre.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
got it. We just had a little. There we go.
I can hear fine.
So one of the questions was how Deal Room and Panoramica compares to Crunchbase. And you probably have a sophisticated answer. Mine is, it's kind of like a mash of Crunchbase and an ecosystem mapping platform, and maybe a little bit of AngelList all wrapped into one. but do you want to talk a little bit more on how that compares to Crunchbase?
Yeah, it's something like this. So yeah, we are a competitor with Crunchbase, but not with the Panoramica platform. So we are a competitor at a global level. So yeah, we have VCs that either choose to use Crunchbase for the global data set, or us. Crunchbase does not offer platforms like Panoramica, what we call at the an ecosystem platform. So this network of 80 plus ecosystem platform like yours is, like, for us, is kind of like it's a massive strength that basically allows us to really have close ties with local ecosystem, and not just basically track data in a top-down approach, basically at a global level. So this is really helpful to sort of getting, it's like, the role, it's like the 80-20 rule. It's kind of okay to get the 80% of the data, but the last 20% are extremely difficult. So the smaller the company, the more difficult it is for us to find, and for Crunchbase as well, by the way. So having this network of platform is actually very helpful to complete basically our coverage in terms of quantity and quality as well.
Awesome. Let's see what other questions we might have. And just on that note, another reason why I liked Deal Room is we can actually have our own platform for Puerto Rico, which it wasn't an option with Crunchbase. So I don't know. Let's see here. Can we filter founders by nationality or origin? I guess that's how can we filter founders? What are our options?
No, so you can, for example, filter founders based on which university they studied at, or their education level, which companies they worked out in the past. That's the kind of filters that you can use on a global platform. You can filter, for example, by gender, so female founders. You can find, for example, VCs that have female partners on their board. That's the kind of filter you can use. You can filter to only look at companies which were founded by serial founders. Um, but no, nationality or like place of origin is not typically something that you can use. Something that you can specify though for yourself. For example, I don't know if you're white or black or Hispanic or whatever, you can specify this on your own individual person profile, and you can choose either to make this like a feature which visible on your own profile or not. So this is completely in your hands, and we're not going to add this data on you.
Yeah, there's always that fine line too of how much information are you going to show off and collect versus not. So yeah, in that aspect, you have control over that front. I don't know if we have the numbers on this, but another question was, what percentage of global startups would you say are on the broader Deal Room platform?
This is
That's hard to tell.
this is an unanswerable question,
Yeah.
hands down. We have a lot of them. We have probably the best coverage. No, not probably. We have the best coverage in Europe because that's where we're from. That's our turf. So we started, by really refining the quality of our data on European markets in terms of startups, in terms of funding rounds as well. So here we sort of see data as a pyramid. So you have your unicorns and big scale ups of the world that everybody know, the Airbnbs and so on at the top of the pyramid. And these companies are kind of easy to track because there's a lot of information on them and we can track them in the news, etc. So that's kind of the easy part. And the more you go down in the pyramid of data, then the more you're going to have to dig information on extremely small companies that we don't know even if they have the potential of becoming a startup or not, companies that were founded just a couple of months ago, in the countryside in Spain, for example, and they haven't raised any money. They don't yet have a product fully ready. So these companies are much more difficult to track, but it's also part of our job to discover these companies before anyone else, because these companies, obviously our clients do care about them a lot, because VCs want to discover investment opportunities before their own competitors as well.
And that's actually something too specific for Puerto Rico for all of us listening. Actually, maybe we'll just pull it up. But if you go to the companies section, for example, or the startup section on the platform, it's pre-filtered and it's showing 340, I think, right now. That's showing companies that are, I guess, a little more verified, or they've raised capital, or we know they're a going concern. When you remove that filter, it'll actually show around 620 potential startups and scale ups, and that shows that there's almost a double or a same amount that we know are a going concern that maybe are, maybe not. We need more data to know for sure. That's another important piece to you jumping on and claiming your profile, because your company may be showing in that category. We just don't have enough data on it because, again, it's private information, a lot of it. So that's not known. We have optimized the algorithms and whatnot with Deal Room, so they are including El Nuevo Dia, News is My Business, and other local news organizations. So if there are local press releases coming out, it doesn't matter if it's English or Spanish, that's totally fine on the language front. So other data that's coming out more publicly through local news should also be getting captured as well. So we are fine-tuning Panoramica to be very optimized for Puerto Rico in every sense that we're able to. That's also another call to action that I'm going to extend to everyone in the ecosystem. Come and talk to us. Come and talk to me, so we can collaborate, get you plugged in to utilize the platform to It's a maximum ability from a startup and founder standpoint. Go on, click the founders tab just on the main page and in the dashboard. Go through, claim your profile, make sure the information's up to date. If you're an accelerator, incubator, startup program, or if you're an investment group or a fund that invests on the island and we haven't already spoken, I know I've spoken to a lot of you already. Let's talk. We can do mass uploads of cohort lists or portfolio companies and map everything. And the data team at Deal Room helps us make sure that's all done in a kosher manner. So we can do that on a mass scale as well, and we'll continue to do so. So for what you're checking out now, if you check out in a week, we'll probably have some updated numbers, and it's growing, and we're an ever growing ecosystem as it is. I know last night at like almost midnight, maybe after midnight, not going to admit to anything, I found like 2 more startups that were only a few weeks or a few months old, but one had already raised capital, so I want to add it in there really fast, maybe before it hit the news. But so it's an ever-growing data set, and the more that we use it as an ecosystem in the community, the better the data for everybody. So that's why we wanted to make sure that it's open and free for everyone with our Puerto Rico data set. So don't be shy. Yes, play around, kick tires. And if you have issues too, the support team's phenomenal at Deal Room, and in the bottom right-hand corner,
right.
There's normally like that standard bubble for support and things. So let's say you find something that's not accurate, and you can't change it for whatever reason, or you don't know how, you can reach out to them and do so. So feel free to reach out if you have a question from like a technical standpoint on that front. I'll continue to do different webinars, or maybe even more granular and focused, if you're an investor or startup or anything like that. And we'll also be training other groups. We'll come to different accelerator cohorts and other things also, especially with our partnership with the Science Trust and all the organizations under that apparatus. We hope to permeate through and work with as many organizations as possible, since this is a platform for everyone here on the island. So I don't think we have any more questions on that front. Thank you. Feel free to reach out. We will send a recording of this to those who have signed up. You can then share that with anyone who maybe missed it, or your business partner, or whoever you want. Feel free to do that. You'll also be able to find it in a playlist for Panoramica on the Invest Puerto Rico YouTube channel, so that you can always find different videos. I'd be remiss not to mention this works hand in hand with the Impeller investment platform that we created. You'll see some of the companies like Libros 787 or Hello or others that are raising capital actively on the island and are listed on the Impeller investment platform, which is where you can actually make transactions and dive deeper. Definitely with an investor focus on that one. We actually have them linked. If you go to the notes of a profile and you see that they're raising capital, there's a good chance that it'll link you right to the Impeller investment platform, where you can continue doing your due diligence if you want to invest in that company. So this is just the beginning. Again, we're technically less than a month in, almost a month, with this being live to the world and to the island. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we're excited to see what this brings. I think we'll probably do a check-in around the end of the year and see kind of how we've grown over the next 3 months and what we've been able to map on the island. So thank you again. Reach out with anything you need. You can find us at investpr.org. We have tons of information in general to help companies, especially those looking to come to the island, investors, innovators. Happy to help any way we can. And thank you, Pierre, and your team for all the help in getting this to the point that it's at now. And we're excited to continue working on this. So,
my pleasure. Thanks, Brian.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. We'll be in touch, and have a good afternoon.